All right, so we're going to jump right into our leadoff this week. We're going to talk about the MLB Draft. It's coming up on Sunday, July 17th. And I could break down prospects for you and all of that, but I figured why not dig into the brain of somebody who has seen these prospects, who literally does this every day. And that's my buddy Tyler Kotila from Perfect Game. He is their national scouting coordinator. He's also a colleague and an editorial writer here at Detroit Sports Nation. Tyler, welcome to the corner. I thank you for joining me, man.
No, it's a pleasure. I'm happy to join in. And talking baseball prospects is always a fun thing to do, so can't complain at all.
I was gonna say you should be able to talk about prospects, right? It's what you do every day. So let's
It's
not waste any time. Let's jump right in. Tigers are picking at 12. What are some names that fans should be familiar with that you maybe have on your big board of prospects that could be there at, and most likely odds on will be there at 12 for the Tigers to take?
definitely. So looking at what the team needs, the biggest thing that stands out is if we go get a college level hitter with a proven track record that's going to be able to step into the lineup after about 2 years or so at the most. That's what we need. We need someone who's that impact bat. And all the names at the top of my list tend to come from the college level. I have one guy who was a prep guy that I was a little excited about. It's actually Carl Crawford's son. So there's some big league bloodlines there that
Sure.
it might take him a little longer to get there, but the risk versus reward there was a little exciting. But Gavin Cross from the Virginia Tech Hokies is the guy that I think everybody should have at the top of the board for the Tigers, like realistically at 12. With a good frame, 6'3", 210, and there's a lot of strength in the swing. If you go down or go and look at his mechanics, like he gets back into the load really well and accelerates through the ball very quickly, and the swing produces loud contact. And right now, it may not be all home runs. He's not just simply a power hitter right now at the college level, but there's a lot of room for that to continue to grow as he gets into pro ball and continues to work through development. And I think he's somebody that might be that corner hitting out or corner outfielder with power hitting upside
Nice.
that the team really needs, especially with Reilly Green already, looking pretty much like a stud.
Yeah, in center
Pairing
field.
those two together, can't complain.
Okay.
So
Okay. And so he's an outfielder. Anybody else on that list?
yeah, another left-handed hitting outfielder, also a bigger guy. Chase DeLauder from the James Madison Dukes. He's 6 foot, pretty
Wow.
like rangy and athletic. Reilly Green, just an older guy. The big knock on him is that he did have an ankle injury this season that kind of
Mm-hmm.
took him off the field and it dropped him in the rankings. I think he might have been inside the top 10 if he were healthy all year long, but I know that's going to knock for him and taking him out of some of those top tens on some lists. But I think the potential's there. I like his ability to work gap to gap. I think he's not going to have as much power upside as Cross, but the ability to like be a singles and doubles hitter, and with Comerica Park being that canyon out in right center field,
Right.
he could live there all day. Just work the pull side gap, get the ball down, hustle out for doubles and triples all day. That'll work. That's something the Tigers could need. Now the two hole in the lineup too. Let the
Yeah.
power hitters do the work after. So
So
I
six
like
foot
him.
four, so big athletic frame, but
Mhm.
not really necessarily known as a power. Is he more profile like line drive hitter? Take the Chipper Jones approach of hitting the ball through the wall instead of over the wall.
Yeah, there is some power upside, but I just don't think it projects like Cross's does. I don't think it's one holds true as he continues to develop into pro ball. And like I don't see him being a guy who's gonna hit 30 home runs, but I could easily see him like again, maybe not in the Tigers ballpark with the canyon out there in right center and that huge monstrous gap. But if he can get some home runs on the road, I could see him hitting 20 home runs and being able to work gap to gap for the most part. But I think that's his approach at the plate is trying to work the pull side and opposite side gaps and just live up the middle with singles and doubles and just produce solid line drives.
Which truthfully is a lot of what we've seen from Riley Green,
Mhm.
and truthfully is also why he's had so much success
Yeah.
early into his career. Is that gap to gap, drive the ball through the middle of the field, which also project that onto Torkelson a little bit, maybe why he's struggling a little bit. So that's nice, especially in a ballpark like Comerica, as you mentioned. So give me a third one. And is he a left-handed outfielder as well?
That's the prep guy, Justin Crawford, Carl
Okay.
Crawford's son. So he's a left-handed hitting outfielder. The thing is with him, I like is just the tools are there. None of them like to me stood out over the top as like this tool is the greatest. Like he's a very balanced like tool hitter. The one thing that lacks is power. He's fast, quick around the bases, and I think there's a big distinction between being quick down the line versus quick around the bases themselves, like being fast at running the bases versus fast at just getting down the line. And he does both those really well. He's Carl Crawford's son. They profile very similarly. He's a slap hitter. He's gonna find ways it's similar to DeLong. It's gonna be singles and doubles or triples in his case if he's gonna leg him out, and he's gonna beat down some ground balls and get some things there. So I think or get some hits there, and I think that get him into the Tigers minor league for a couple years, see what he does in the system, maybe get some more loft into the swing.
Yeah.
And I like the projection there. But the other guy that kind of sneaks in there for me is Daniel Susak. He's a catcher from Arizona. The defense isn't as polished, and I know that some people are going to want the Tigers to shy away from that since we do have Dylan Dengler still. And it's just hard for me to pass up on a guy who has the talent if he's there at 12. And Susak's bat excites me. I know there's been some questions about his plate discipline, and that's something that's a little bit harder to teach, but the swing itself is just really pretty to me, and I think he's at least worth consideration at 12 as well.
Okay, so you went above. You got extra credit, man. Like, you gave me 4 names. That's perfect. So all outfielders, which is less exciting, I would think, just because we have the Greens. You got Kerry Carpenter, who's also a prospect that could be making his way up at some point in the outfield. Badu's still there. Meadows is still under contract. Where the Tigers are horrible right now is their infield and infield production. Any chance there's an infielder that's worth taking at 12?
Yeah, there definitely is. Zach Nita from Campbell. He's definitely probably going to be there. It's just a really funky swing. There's a lot of moving pieces. There's just a lot going on in the whole. He's just moving the whole time. Gary Sheffield did the same thing, and he was just fine. They're moving left and right, and he did just fine. Everybody has their own rhythm and their own timing and the way that they come through the zone. But it's a personal thing that I'm not a big fan of Nito and the way he swings the bat.
Is he the one that lays the bat straight backwards?
No, that's Jace Young from Texas Tech. He's the one who has the bat straight up.
Okay. Nito, his brother plays in Texas,
yes,
for the Rangers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's with the Rangers.
Or he's in their organization.
And he might be there too. He might sneak a little higher, but he's another guy who right now plays second base for them. But to me, it's like, where are we going to put him if he gets into the Tigers organization? Because now we have to find him a home. Obviously, second base, we don't have an up-and-coming second baseman. But to me, I'd rather draft a shortstop.
We don't have an up-and-coming anything in the infield. Our up-and-comer was Torkelson. Like, sure, Cody Clemens, maybe Ryan Kreider. But, like, there's not a ton of infield help in the next couple of years that's coming.
Yeah.
I was looking, and there's nobody that even projects as a future value of over 50. And we've had that discussion of that scouting scale, right, of 50 being below average major league player. So, whatever. I hope they get a position player. The one thing to avoid is arms. Prep arms, to be sure. College arms, potentially, right? Let's not pull another Jackson Jobe here.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of prep arms at the top of this class, and it's going to make Alavila's decision really tough just because we know
it shouldn't be that tough.
We know what the Tigers need. But with all of those prep arms there, I think that there's definitely going to be some of those scouts in his year on draft. And they're like, hey, man, like, Brandon Barriere out of Florida, that's my guy. He's a lefty. 4 pitch mix. Let's do it.
Listen, I get it, right? Like, you can truly never have enough pitching. I understand that. But how many arms are going to be available rounds 2 through whatever? Like, you can get pitching back there. Tarek Skubal was a 9th round pick. Brisky, who's been solid, not great, not terrible, solid, was like, what, a 29th round pick?
Yeah, he was late.
So you never know with arms. You truly never know with any prospect, but fill the need that you have.
Yeah.
Fill the need that you have. Fill the need. Anyways, before I get off on that soapbox and Alavila and all that, because Lord knows I've done enough of it on the corner here, I'm going to ask you worst case scenario, best case scenario. What is the absolute worst case scenario at 12 for the Tigers?
I think it's the worst case scenario is really not a player, but a tough choice. I think if Brock Porter is still on the board at 12, that's a problem.
Here we go with those prep arms again, man.
Yeah,
God bless.
it's so hard to pass up on him in the backyard. Orchard Lake St. Mary's prep, like he's been there for the last 4 years. The Tigers have been able to be on him every start as much as they've wanted. He's upper 80s with a disgusting changeup. One of our other PG scouts, Brian, he likes to call it an abusive change. If you see tweets that go out, it'll be like Brock Porter abusing hitters with changeups. It's true. It's a nasty pitch. The depth on it is disgusting, and it pairs really well. He tunnels it well, and when you're tunneling a upper 90s fastball with a changeup
Yeah.
that I'm pretty sure is like mid to upper 70s, it's hard to just match that. And
That
he's
big
got
of a
good
drop off,
breakers.
huh?
Yeah, it's a distinct difference between the two, and it tunnels. There's just so much to like there,
You're not
and
giving me hope here.
and he's the
I
hometown kid.
know.
So
God bless. If
so
you're going to take a prep kid or a kid that's young that's not going to break the roster in a couple of years, why would you not take a Crawford or the guy that we've discussed too of Collier, right? Cam Collier, who's a third baseman, most likely won't be there at 12. But if he is there and you want to go that young, oh, please, for the love of God, draft a bat. For the love of God, draft a bat. Okay, so worst case scenario is a tough choice, right? Brock Porter still being on the board, knowing that we have so many other needs to fill, and we just drafted a prep arm last year. That's worst case scenario. What is the best case scenario for the Tigers at 12?
I think it's Gavin Cross. I just everything I watched, sit here and try and make these little like short lists for myself, like figuring out, oh, these are the guys I want. These are at the top of my list. Like when I sit down and watch the draft, I think Cross is the guy. I find him in the top one or two almost every time. I like DeLauder a lot. I've talked to people about him before, and some people are a little bit worrisome on the injury, but I just like the way he projects long term. But I think
Sure.
like the power with Cross and the power upside there is what excites me the most. And the swing is very smooth. Like it's a power producing swing. He's already producing barrels, and there's just a lot to like there. I find it easier to fall in love with Cross at 12 than I do with DeLauder or Susak or even Crawford. So I think he's the guy, but I think all those, like all the other names I just mentioned, are also victors. I think there's a lot of good options there, like in terms of hitters that we could take there, and the Tigers fans should be like, "Yep, that's a win. That's a good pick." Like I know I mentioned Nito earlier, and I don't personally like Nito, but it's not to say he's not a first round pick. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be in this conversation, and if the Tigers take him, that it's not going to work out. Like it's certainly not meant to come off that way. It's just more of a personal thing. Like on my list, those are the guys that I think I'm more invested in than Nito, because I know there's some people out there that Nito might be one of the best bats in the draft class, and I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's up there, but like my personal opinion is I think Cross is the number one option. I think DeLauder and Susak are pretty close behind it, for at least for the Tigers at 12.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to ask you a very elementary level question here based on Gavin Cross, okay? College, we know they use the aluminum bats, and I know that they've deadened them. You're talking about producing barrels and the power hitting and stuff like that. Can it project to the adjustment that he's going to have to make swinging a wood bat?
I think so. I think it will. I don't think there's any concern there for him. The swing itself is very smooth, and I don't really think that the bat in his hands is going to change a whole lot. Like just the way he swings the bat itself, I think is going to be just fine. I'm sure he's going to go through a rough patch. I'm pretty sure almost all pro guys, when they get in that stride, it takes them a second to adjust. But I think he's going to be just fine. And even then, if he ends up not being able to barrel the ball up and be the power hitter that he projects to be, he's still just as good as DeLauder is as a gap-to-gap guy. He may not be as quick, he may not be as fast, but
is he good defensively?
Yeah, and like for his position, yeah. I don't think he's a center fielder. I think he's more of a corner outfielder build, but he's athletic enough and runs down balls. Like good first step, nothing crazy. He's not gonna like chase down a ball like crazy. He's not gonna be Austin Jackson covering everything there, but he'll do the job.
Very few are Austin Jackson in center field. Yeah. It's been, we might have it with Reilly Green. Verdict is still very much out, but there has not been somebody to play center field like Austin Jackson played center field. That catch that he made to save Armando Galarraga's perfect game was like incredible.
Yeah.
But that's beside the point. That was so many years ago when the Tigers were actually good. We're hoping that this pick on Sunday is another step in the right direction of actually making this team compete and play good baseball with a good roster built. Tyler, thank you so much for coming in and just dropping nuggets of wisdom for us. and for our fans, man. I really appreciate it. That's going to do it for the leadoff. Let's head in and let's talk about the recap of the series with the Kansas City Royals.
Man on a mission, I'ma get it. You know I be on a what?